Next, we are dividing fractions. Remember, when dividing fractions, you have to multiply by the reciprocal. For those who don't know what a reciprocal is, remember, the reciprocal is flipping the fraction. So the numerator becomes the denominator and the denominator becomes the numerator. So here, first, change all mixed numbers to improper fractions. So we have 8 over 9 divided by 3 times 6 is 18, plus 2 is 20 over 3. So now we keep the first fraction, multiply. The reciprocal of 20 over 3 is 3 over 20. So now we're left with a multiplication problem. To make the number smaller, we can cross simplify. So I look at the 8 and I look at the 20. What can go into both 8 and 20 evenly? 4 can. I can divide 8 by 4. I can divide 20 by 4. That gives me 2 and a 5. Then I look at my 3 and my 9. Well, 3 can get divided evenly in the 3 and in the 9. 3 divided by 3 will give me 1. 9 divided by 3 will give me 3. So that makes a new fraction of 2 divided by 3 times 1 divided by 5. So 2 times 1 is 2. 3 times 5 is 15. And that is simplified. A positive divided by a positive is a positive. If you waited to simplify at the end, you should have still gotten to over 15. E, 7 4/5 minus 12 4/6. We are subtracting fractions. Therefore, we need to get common denominators. The first thing we do is change all mixed numbers to improper fraction. So that gives us 7 times 5 is 35 plus 4 is 39 over 5 minus 6 times 12 is 72 plus 4 is 76 over 6. So we need to get the least common multiple, which would be 30. So I would multiply this, the first fraction, numerator and denominator, by 6. In the second fraction, I would multiply the numerator and denominator by 5. So I would do 39 times 6 and get 234 all over 30 minus 76 times 5 will give me 380 all over 30. So we have to do 234 minus 380. Remember, we'd have to add the opposite. So now we have a positive plus a negative we subtract, which will give us 146. 380 is larger, so it's going to be a negative 146 all over 30. 30 can go into 146 4 times. That's going to give me negative 4 26 over 30. Well, 26 over 30 is not simplified. We know that 2 can go into both of those. Divide by 2, divide by 2. Your final answer is -4 and 13 over 15. And then last, we have -5 over 7 plus 3 over 7. Well, we're adding fractions, so we have the same denominator, so we're good there. We just have to do -5 plus 3. Keep it all over 7. We have different signs. We have a negative, we have a positive. So we need to subtract. 5 minus 3 is 2. 5 is a larger number, and it's a negative. Therefore, my answer is -2. So it's -2 over 7, and that is simplified. Part 7, rational and irrational numbers. So, what's rational and what does irrational mean? Remember, the definition of rational is numbers that can be expressed as fractions. They have 2 characteristics. They stop or they repeat. If you're not rational, then you are irrational. So irrational is being the opposite of rational. So numbers that can't be expressed as a fraction. Okay? Irrational numbers don't stop. And they don't repeat. So they don't stop and they don't repeat. So -2. -2 stops. It's just -2. Since it stops, it's a rational number. Also, remember guys, all whole numbers can be put over 1. We just made that a fraction. So 2 is rational. Next, 0.248961 ... So I look. Does it stop? No. Does it repeat? No. Therefore, it doesn't stop and it doesn't repeat. Therefore, it's irrational. 8 over 9. 8 over 9 is a fraction. Therefore, it's rational. It's expressed literally as a fraction. The square root of 2. The square root of 2 is not a perfect square. Therefore, if I went to solve for the square root of 2, I would get a number that doesn't stop and doesn't repeat. Therefore, this is irrational. So it's good to know that one characteristic of an irrational number is non-perfect square roots. .56, that bar means it's repeating. So, does it stop? No. Does it repeat? Yes. If it repeats, it's rational. So that's rational. The square root of 25. Well, you guys know the square root of 25. It's 5. 5 would be what we're looking to see is rational or irrational. Well, 5 stops. Therefore, this is rational. So, if irrational numbers are non-perfect square roots, rational numbers are perfect square roots. And pi. Remember, pi is a number that does not repeat and it doesn't stop. It's that special irrational number. Okay? We know pi though. Pi continues on forever. 3.1415 ... Okay? Pi goes on forever. Remember, we know it as 3.14. Okay? Next, we will talk about the properties. Okay, so the commutative property. Commutative property means they just change the order. The associative property deals with grouping. So you're looking at different groups inside the parentheses. The identity property stays the same. So we would either be adding 0 or multiplying by 1. And then the inverse property. Inverse means opposite. So for adding, we're going to add opposites. For multiplying, we multiply by the reciprocal. So, 16 plus 27 equals 27 plus 16. All these numbers did was change order. So this is the commutative property, and since this is addition, it's the commutative property of addition. So A. Next, 12 plus 0 equals 12. Well, we're just adding 0. It doesn't do anything. It makes it stay the same. So therefore, it's the identity property of addition. So E. Next, we have 326 times 2 equals 2 times 326. They just changed order. So it's the commutative property of multiplication. 7 times 3 times 1 equals 7 times 3. Well, multiplying the left side by 1 makes it just stay the same. Therefore, it's the identity property of multiplication. 9 plus 3 plus 2 equals 9 plus 2 plus 3. The 3 and the 2 switched. They changed order. Therefore, it's the commutative property of addition. 1 over 7 times 7 equals 1. We're multiplying by the reciprocal. That's the inverse property of multiplication. 13 times 8 times 7 equals 13 times 8 times 7. That's the associative property of multiplication. Okay? It just changed groups. 5 times 21 equals 21 times 5. It just changed order. Commutative property of multiplication. 1 equals 15 times 1 over 15. That's multiplying by the reciprocal. That's the inverse of multiplication. And the last one, 8 plus 5 plus 0 equals 8 plus 5.